60 plus? Discover the 4 shocking carbs you must avoid and 4 transformative options to eat now. Martha caught sight of the headline flickering on her small kitchen television, her heart momentarily racing with both interest and dread. As a spirited 62-year-old grandmother, the words echoed eerily in her mind. Each Sunday, she'd gather around the dinner table, dutifully serving the same beloved but increasingly unhealthy dishes. Deep down, she felt a creeping worry. Was she fueling a decline in her vitality, hidden beneath layers of family obligations and expectations of aging? Sorting through the family's dinner plans, the unhealthy choices weighed heavily on her, as thoughts of pasta, bread, and sugary snacks swirled in her mind. Each bite felt like a tightening knot of regret, the sweet dishes they loved now a reminder of her own dwindling energy. Her son's carefree comment sliced through her introspection. "You're living in the past, Mom. Why not just stick to what everyone else eats?" His laughter, innocent yet dismissive, sunk deep into her chest, igniting a painful twist of self-doubt. Instead of feeling supported, her family's unintentional judgment pressed down like a dense fog, stifling her resolve. But a recent health scare, an unannounced visit to the doctor, had ignited something fierce within her. Determined to reclaim not just her health, but her very identity, she decided to seek guidance from Jamie, the lively local nutritionist whose enthusiasm for healthy living was downright contagious. Martha imagined Jamie's infectious laughter and the bright, creative energy that filled the room when she spoke about food. Could Martha allow herself to break free from familial chains and embrace a life colored with vitality and choice? As she began experimenting in her kitchen, it transformed into a sanctuary. Vibrant vegetables tangled with spices danced a new rhythm, giving her a sense of passion she'd long forgotten. Together with Jamie's vibrant spirit as her guide, Martha discovered innovative substitutes and nutrient-packed alternatives that stirred excitement in her heart. But with every colorful dish she created, insecurity crept in, terrorizing her thoughts. What if her family laughed at her newfound boldness? Would they mock her intentions? With a family reunion looming, Martha stood at a daunting crossroads, wrestling with doubt as memories flooded her mind of every Sunday dinner catered to their expectations, good-natured but suffocating. Would they scorn her for stepping outside their culinary tradition and challenge the comfort of the meals she had always lovingly prepared? The day arrived with the aroma of her colorful dishes wafting through the kitchen, but her anxiety twisted tightly in her chest. Everything felt charged with unspoken tension. A longing for understanding clashed with the fear of ridicule. Gripping the serving spoon, she rehearsed her announcement, anticipation driving her heart's cadence faster. Would they embrace her vibrant offerings, or would she be met with familiar snickers? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Martha's resolve trembled as she contemplated all she stood to lose. Just as she prepared to present her vibrant creations, a hush fell over the room, eyes wide and the air thick with expectation. She locked gazes with her son, who wore a blend of confusion and doubt. This was her moment to disrupt the mundane. Yet every ounce of bravado swelled with fear. Would her journey toward reclaiming energy be met with warmth, or would it crumble under the weight of family expectations? Martha cleared her throat, the sound barely breaking through the thick, charged silence. She could feel the weight of her son's gaze, his brow furrowing as if searching for the right reaction among the array of colors on her plates. The vibrant salads glistened with olive oil, roasted vegetables popped with unexpected spices, and whole-grain grains nestled peacefully alongside hearty legumes. They were not just meals, they were her statement, proof of her transformation. "Everyone," she began, her voice cracking but steadying with fierce determination, "I've tried something different today." The room shifted slightly, her family leaning in unexpectedly. "I wanted to make food that reflects how I feel, alive, vibrant, and full of energy." She felt a flicker of bravery ignite within her as she brought forth the first dish, the quinoa salad bursting with herbs that she'd painstakingly prepared. Her daughter-in-law, Lisa, cautiously smiled. "Looks interesting, Mom." A small part of Martha jumped at the hesitance veiled in the word interesting. Yet she decided to not dwell on it, pushing forth her next offering. She mixed vibrant beets with creamy avocado, the vivid contrast inviting whispers of inquiry from her family members. As she served, questions began spilling out, some curious and some skeptical. "What's this dressing made of? How did you get this flavor?" A wave of conversation ignited, crackling with both enthusiasm and disbelief. Strikingly, Martha felt a flicker of elation. Each question allowed her to share what she had been exploring, and joy began to bloom in her chest despite the looming clouds of self-doubt. "Honestly, I've been working with Jamie," she said, feeling empowered as she mentioned the nutritionist she had come to adore. "She's taught me ways to make dishes that are not only healthy, but also delicious." And just like that, she unwittingly turned Jamie into an ally. Her son raised an exaggerated brow. "So does that mean we're all supposed to eat this health food from now on?" His tone, light but edged with sarcasm, tested her resolve, largely because she feared its roots were tied to her own insecurities. But instead of retreating, she replied decisively, "I think we should all consider what we eat, especially since it impacts everything, from our energy levels to our happiness." The room crackled with a mix of tension and budding intrigue. They hadn't anticipated this. It wasn't just about food. It was about Martha, the grandmother, the nurturer, asserting her independence, challenging outdated norms, and unveiling her newfound agency. But doubt still clung to the air, a specter looming just beyond the reach of her growing confidence. What if they fell back into their old habits, oblivious to her efforts? Martha could feel her heartbeat quicken with each tentative bite her family members took. "Okay," her son finally admitted, "I'll take a second helping of this quinoa salad if you promise to make that cheesy pasta dish I love next time." Something within Martha shifted. A realization dawned. Perhaps this journey was not about replacing old traditions altogether, but about inclusively transforming them, blending her family's beloved recipes with her new understanding of nourishment. The path forward was still rocky, filled with potential misunderstandings, but her willingness to assert herself marked a significant shift in how she envisioned her role. As laughter replaced the initial uncertainty, she couldn't help but wonder about the future. In letting go of past anxieties, was she inviting new possibilities? Her heart raced, anxiety mingling with a burgeoning thrill. But just as her spirit lifted, an unexpected silence fell again. Her son's gaze locked onto her, a slightly hesitant admiration flickering behind his initial skepticism. "You've changed, Mom. It's different. Good different." His words of acknowledgement landed like stones in the pond of her heart, rippling with consequence. Was this merely the surface of a deeper change? With family dynamics swirling and threats of old habits still intact, Martha's heart quickened at the possibilities that lay before her. How could she challenge herself even further as she navigated uncharted waters? The moment felt transformative, yet tantalizingly precarious. Would this family reunion prove to be the spark igniting a revolution, or merely a small ripple in a larger sea of tradition? Martha stood in the kitchen the following morning, remnants of last night's triumph still buzzing in her veins. The light streaming through the window illuminated the countertop, casting a golden glow on the fresh produce she had carefully selected the day before. The lively colors beckoned her, a stark contrast to the lingering unease fluttering in her chest. Could one dinner truly usher in a lasting change? Her mind raced through a maze of thoughts, each one of excitement and trepidation. The moment embracing her son's acknowledgement had been sweet, but it also demanded that she navigate her own shifting identity. Martha was no longer just a mother and grandmother defined by who she had been, but a woman defined by aspirations yet to be fulfilled. Confronting her old self, a figure draped in the shadow of doubt, felt daunting. She busied herself washing and chopping, feeling the knife dance fluidly through carrots and celery, each slice a familiar rhythm bringing her clarity. What if she focused on creating a weekly meal plan, one filled with vibrant options that could cater to her family's tastes without compromising her newfound values? It wasn't just about health now. It was about education, transformation, and showing her family that delicious could coexist with nutritious. What would they think if she asked them to choose between dishes that celebrated her culinary exploration? They might grumble at first, but deep down she hoped they'd appreciate the variety. "Maybe we can start a meal of the week tradition," she murmured to herself, each word punctuating the air with resolve. "We could rotate who picks, so everyone has a hand in the meals." The idea struck a chord, allowing her confidence to swell in a remarkable way. Would they embrace the process of exploring flavors together? Her mind buzzed as she prepped ingredients, revolving around the possibilities. There was a challenge in envisioning each member of her family as active participants instead of passive consumers. What if she encouraged them to share what they loved most about their favorite dishes? That could be a key to building bridges over the culinary gaps. Yet a tightening sensation wrapped around her heart as she thought of her son's initial skepticism. His playfulness had masked something deeper, a challenge that hinted at unease with change. Lurking beneath his comments was the question of how far she would go to stick to this newfound path. If her own family felt threatened by her evolution, she could falter before she ever took a step forward. After a few moments of quiet reflection, Martha found herself scrolling through Jamie's blog for inspiration. As images of vibrant meals danced on the screen, her apprehensions morphed into motivation. She realized that educating her family meant connecting them with the flavors, the stories behind each dish, and their potential health benefits. Transforming relationships would require vulnerability, allowing them to see her learning curve, the stumbles, successes, and her willingness to adapt. In drawing inspiration from her family's favorites, Martha started listing dishes. It wasn't simply a superficial substitution. It was about gathering everyone around the table, not just physically but emotionally, binding them together with shared experiences. The challenge ignited a fierce desire in her, motivating her to step even deeper into this uncharted territory. Just then, her phone chimed, interrupting her reverie. A text from Jamie flashed across the screen. "Can we meet this week? I'd love to hear how your family reacted." A smile crept across Martha's face as the seeds of anticipation sprouted in her mind. Her professional growth was on the horizon, solidifying her role as someone willing to confront the conversation of nutrition and family legacy head-on. Each planned dish, each shared moment was a step toward hearing the underlying stories echoing back to her. But as excitement surged through her, another question crept in. What if her family resisted too much? Was she inviting discord by challenging compared to cherished traditions? With each fresh herb she harvested, the weight of uncertainty loomed heavier. As Martha prepared to embrace this transformative role, she concluded that her path would be riddled with resistance and growth. The image of Jamie's face lingered in her mind, supportive yet questioning, pushing her to ponder just how courageous she could end up being. As thoughts crashed through her mind, one thing remained clear. The moment of decision lay ahead. Would her family be the supportive scaffolding around her burgeoning self, or would they become an obstacle to her unfolding narrative? Moments later, she caught her reflection in the kitchen window. The sight surprised her. It was the first time in years she felt comfortable acknowledging her weighty aspirations. Each cooking session was a brushstroke on the canvas of transformation. Determined, she reached for her phone again, fingers hovering over the screen, ready to reach out to Jamie when another question arose. What if this journey led her to confront her old self at its roots? With a sigh, Martha knew that uncertainty was merely part of the process. The door to her kitchen creaked open. Her son stepped in, a curious look on his face, and she braced herself. Would he question her intentions or embrace the unfolding journey? "Hey, Mom," he said slowly, uncertainty shadowing his tone. "What's on the breakfast menu today?" As she prepared to respond, was she ready to invoke the changes and conversations she had envisioned, or were they destined to clash against the familiar rhythm of their shared past? Martha took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her son's question hang in the air. It was a seemingly simple inquiry, but to her it was laced with complexities. She could feel the urge to slip into her default mode of cooking, to offer safe, familiar options that required little to no explanation. Yet, in that moment, she recognized the need for growth, for both herself and her son. "Actually," she began, her voice steadier than she felt, "I've been thinking about our breakfast choices. How does a quinoa porridge sound?" The words tasted strange on her tongue, but she pressed forward, surprised at her own courage. "Quinoa for breakfast? What are you, a food blogger now?" he chuckled, partly teasing, partly incredulous. Martha bristled, but quickly tempered her defensiveness. This was about dialogue, not a battle. "It's nutritious and filling," she countered, feeling the flames of determination light within her. "And it has more protein than oatmeal." After a brief pause, she added, "I want to explore healthier options, something new for us to try together." His quizzical gaze softened, and she saw a flicker of curiosity replace the skepticism. "Okay, I'm game, but if it's awful, I'm telling you." There was an edge of lightness in his tone, and it made her smile. As she set to work, the utensils in her hands became extensions of her resolve. Each ingredient she measured was a step away from the old habits that had once defined their meals. She poured the quinoa and watched it simmer, the grains swirling in the pot like her own thoughts, unsettled yet full of potential. Suddenly, the kitchen was filled with the scent of cinnamon and vanilla wafting through the air, transforming an ordinary morning into something special. Her son returned with a bowl and spoon, a hint of hesitation in his eyes. "What are we doing with it anyway?" Martha seized the opportunity. "I thought we could top it with some fresh fruits and a drizzle of honey. How does that sound?" She was inviting him into the process, opening a door she hadn't realized had been closed for so long. This was about taking ownership of their health together. "Okay then," he said, a hint of a smile forming. "Let's see what you've got." As they prepared and garnished the dish, a lively interplay of ingredients and laughter emerged, weaving a tapestry that felt fresh and promising. With each spoonful, Martha sensed a shift. This wasn't just breakfast. It was a manifestation of her evolving purpose that extended well beyond the kitchen. Her family needed to become participants, not just bystanders, in this new narrative she was crafting. A few bites in, she couldn't resist. "So, what did you think of the last meal I made?" She used Jamie's words, curious to gauge his opinion on their culinary experience thus far. Would he reflect the apprehension that tugged at her? Honestly, it was great. I mean, surprising, but great. There was a moment of clarity, an acknowledgement of their shared experience. Martha's heart soared. It was more than a compliment. It was a bridge towards deeper conversations about their family's health and values. Each meal forged a connection. Instead of glossing over her desire for change, he was beginning to engage. Moments like this showed her that his skepticism could be transformed into support. Yet, the gnawing question remained. How long until the initial enthusiasm faded? How would they approach a more significant overhaul of their dinner routines? Martha started mentally preparing a plan, one that involved more family participation in the kitchen. If they could be invested in the process, they might accept the changes more readily. Just then, her phone dinged again, another message from Jamie flashing across the screen. "Can you tackle meal prep tips today?" A wave of anxiety surged through her. What if she fell short? But beneath that anxiety, a new determination bubbled up. She needed to prepare herself to communicate her journey effectively. There would be no going back now. This was her path and decision. As she turned to her son, excited by his approval, another thought pierced through. What if her conversation with Jamie led to something greater? What if she stepped forward and took the reins of her newfound vision, sharing her trials and triumphs along the way? Martha looked at her son, who was savoring the porridge more than she'd expected, and she felt a tremor of anticipation. "How about we create a meal plan together?" she proposed, each word laced with excitement. "Meal plan? You're on fire, Mom," he teased again, but this time she sensed his genuine interest. "Yeah, I am," she replied, a grin spreading across her face. "Isn't it time we made some changes together?" As they exchanged ideas, the air around them vibrated with potential. They were crafting something new, yet familiar. And as Martha leaned into this new territory, a thought echoed in her mind. How far was she willing to push not just her family's tastes, but her own comfort levels? The room filled with laughter as they plotted their culinary future. Yet Martha remained subtly aware of the hard realization ahead. Could she truly embrace where this journey might lead? As she placed the last ingredient on the table, a new wave of uncertainty washed over her. If she were to carve out this new identity, she needed to face something difficult, a reckoning of past choices and future aspirations. "Just wait until we try out that hummus I've been eyeing," her son laughed, oblivious to the deeper battle brewing within her. Martha nodded, excitement and apprehension intertwining, aware now that transformations weren't easy. But as the conversation flowed, she felt a shift within, opening pathways of understanding, ready to tackle whatever emerged next. And as she stared at the quinoa pot bubbling with potential, it hit her all at once, the real question waiting ahead. Could she inspire this kind of change not only in her family, but also in herself? The moment of truth was fast approaching, one she must face head-on, with her family firmly alongside her. With her son's laughter echoing in the kitchen, Martha took a moment to gather her thoughts beneath the surface of their lively banter. The notion of a meal plan excited her, but an undercurrent of fear pulled at her, whispering doubts of her competence. What if she failed to sustain this enthusiasm? The specter of reverting back to the mundane felt more intimidating than the challenge itself. Could she keep their momentum alive? As Jamie finished chewing and nodded in approval of the quinoa porridge, a wave of pride washed over her. Yet, with it came the unsettling reality of harnessing this moment into something larger. This was only breakfast, she reminded herself. Her kitchen transformation needed a foundation, something solid to support her ambition. "Why not turn it into a weekly family event?" she suggested, her eyes lighting up with the possibilities. "Every Sunday, we can all sit together and create a fresh meal plan for the week." Her son raised an eyebrow, intrigued and perhaps a little wary. "Even Dad?" "Especially Dad," Martha affirmed, her confidence bolstered by her son's implicit support. She envisioned the three of them working in tandem, sharing culinary ideas while mischief floated through the air like the smell of freshly baked bread. As Jamie mulled it over, Martha's thoughts drifted to her husband. Would he understand her vision? He had often seemed disinterested in the trivialities she had previously taken on. What would it take to rekindle his interest in their family meals? She acknowledged that engaging him would be a test of her resolve, a separate adventure waiting to unfold alongside their kitchen transformations. "Okay, I'll talk to him," she said, a mix of determination and vulnerability dancing through her. "But I'll need your help. You'll have to convince him too." "Me? Why?" He grinned, clearly amused. "Because you're convincing when you want to be," Martha replied, an impulse sparking a sense of camaraderie that galvanized her. This was about building a collective identity, and in doing so, Martha felt a surge of his youthful energy pushing her forward. "Challenge accepted," he waved, an exaggerated salute accompanying his declaration. As they moved on to brainstorming dinner ideas, like incorporating vegetarian options and exploring spices from various cultures, Martha felt invigorated. She began jotting down everything, excitedly shaping a roadmap for the coming week. But as her list grew, something else bubbled to the surface, the nagging worry about the hurdles still to come. Her previous attempts at change had floundered due to the commitment required, and she feared pushing the boundaries of routine too far. Could she hatch a plan and execute it seamlessly? Images of past disappointments flashed through her mind: poorly received meals, futile negotiations about healthy snacks, and the defeats that loomed over her kitchen choices. Nevertheless, she resisted the impulse to retreat. If anything, she had grown more aware of her past failures. Instead of clinging to them, she chose to use them as lessons. "Martha?" Her son's voice interrupted her thoughts. "You good?" "Yeah, just considering how to structure it all," she said, attempting to mask her concerns. But as she looked into Jamie's eyes, she realized honesty might serve them better than veiling her worries. "I mean, I want this to work, you know? I'm scared that if we stray too far from the normal, it might fall apart." "Mom, if we're all in it together, it's not gonna fall apart. That's how it works, right?" There was a conviction in his voice that surprised Martha, a gentle reminder of the strength of vulnerability wrapped in family bonds. Hadn't she just witnessed how a small adjustment could spark curiosity and joy? A soft smile appeared on Martha's face as she watched her son savoring the fruits of their labor. She felt a flicker of hope igniting within her, even amidst the trepidation. Perhaps this was her call to redefine how they as a family approached nourishment, bonding through collaboration. As she collected her thoughts into a coherent plan, the words of Jamie echoed in her mind. The family-oriented cooking strategy could well disrupt the old patterns and cultivate engagement, and, more importantly, continuity. But as she jotted down her recipe ideas, she couldn't shake the feeling that she stood on a precipice of change. What if this effort exposed not just weaknesses, but also hidden strengths? Would she discover resilience she didn't know she possessed, and could that open a door to new realms of creative expression? "Hey, can we explore some different cuisines next? I've heard about this really cool sushi-making class," Jamie asked, his enthusiasm bubbling over. Martha chuckled at his eagerness, but the suggestion simultaneously struck a chord within her. Could she go further into uncharted territory, where techniques and flavors were unknown, and truly push herself to adapt? "Absolutely," she replied, the thought of sushi making filling her with a blend of dread and excitement. It represented a growth opportunity, challenging her in ways she hadn't imagined. Just then, the light of revelation swept through her, a desire to keep stretching not just her family's culinary repertoire, but her capabilities as well. The hurdles of tomorrow would come, she knew. However, today was ripe with possibility, and that alone gave her hope. She turned back to Jamie, excitement in her voice. "Let's build that plan. Together, we'll discover new flavors, and who knows, maybe it'll lead to something even greater." As they collaborated, the kitchen felt alive with purpose. However, deep down in the recesses of her mind, another question lingered. If she embraced these new challenges, what else might she uncover about herself in the process? With each new recipe, could she unearth parts of her identity that had remained dormant for years? The answers beckoned, just out of reach, but she needed to take that step forward. With the culinary horizon widening before her, she was acutely aware that the journey lay ahead, both exhilarating and daunting, was just beginning. The morning light streamed through the kitchen windows, illuminating the scattered recipe papers and handwritten notes that had come to define Martha's renewed culinary mission. She could almost taste the excitement as she stepped into this new week, armed with goals and aspirations for her family. Yet, beneath that cloak of anticipation lay a simmering tension, a mix of eagerness and fear that gnawed at her resolve. Today was the day she would approach Tony. As she contemplated his likely reaction, a twinge of doubt began to creep in. What if he dismissed her ideas or, even worse, mocked her enthusiasm? The vulnerability of exposing her dreams left a bitter taste, making the previously exhilarating prospect of a family meal plan feel like a chasm she had to leap across. In the quiet of the morning, she prepared herself. What approach would resonate with him? Should she present it as a fun family activity, or would he see it merely as another obligation piled on top of his already hectic work life? She weighed her options, her mind racing as she flipped through discussions they had shared about meal planning in the past, recalling his ambivalence. As she mixed dough for a simple bread recipe, she realized she had the tools to not only create a meal, but to also facilitate a deeper connection. This wasn't just about food. It was about rekindling bonds that had frayed over time. It was an invitation to engage, to explore their shared lives through the lens of flavor. Her heart raced with both fear and a burgeoning confidence. "Okay, let's approach this strategically," she muttered to herself, focusing on her breathing. She considered inviting Tony not simply to discuss dinner, but also to share a vision. In her mind, she lined up her key points like ingredients in a well-organized pantry. Family togetherness, the joy of discovery, the health benefits, all interlaced with a sprinkle of humor and urgency. This wasn't just a meal. This was a chance to rejuvenate their family dynamics. When Tony finally sauntered into the kitchen, she noticed the weary lines etched into his forehead. Yet a warmth simmered beneath his fatigued expression. The early morning made for a rare moment of stillness, allowing Martha to seize the opportunity. She knew this was her moment. "Hey, Tony," she began, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. "I want to talk to you about something. I think it could be really fun and important for us." He raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. "What's on your mind?" Martha hesitated, feeling the weight of anticipation hanging in the air like the aroma of fresh bread. "I've been thinking about our meals. I want to make cooking more of a family thing, like a weekly planning session where we brainstorm and create new dishes together." As she spoke, she focused on his reactions. His initial skeptical look began to soften, and her confidence rose with every word. She unfolded her vision, detailing the potential for family adventure in the kitchen. She emphasized the benefits of each meal, nutritional, familial, and emotional. The stakes were too high. She had ignited a spark, and now she had to nurture it into a flame. Over the next several days, Martha diligently prepared, taking note of her family's preferences and dietary restrictions. She meticulously gathered recipes, challenging herself to think beyond her usual comfort zones. As the scent of roasted garlic and thyme mingled in the air one evening, Martha recognized that she wasn't merely preparing a meal, she was crafting an experience, one that required preparation, forethought, and most importantly, resilience. She decided to draw up a meal calendar, showcasing not only what they would cook, but also the stories behind each dish. As she worked on it late into the night, her excitement bubbled over. Each recipe was accompanied by anecdotes from her childhood or references to places they wanted to visit. At that moment, she felt the power of food as a connector, a thread that wove their lives together. However, she also felt a pang of anxiety as she realized that this venture was wholly hers. What if things didn't unfold the way she hoped? Was she risking too much, placing her self-worth on the success of family dinners? The fear twisted in her gut, gnawing at her sense of control. But as dawn broke the following day, illuminating her hopeful plans on the fridge, a thought crossed her mind. Maybe the journey itself, with its challenges and joys, was just as important as the outcome. Satisfied with her calendar and filled with renewed determination, Martha approached Tony again. "I have a proposal for our first family meal," she announced, her voice steadier than before. She unfolded her plans, laying out a map of their culinary journey ahead. "We're embarking on a theme night for our first week, Italian. It'll be a pizza night, and everyone can come up with their own toppings." She watched closely as Tony listened, his brow furrowing in thought. "Pizza? Really? That's not new for us," he remarked skeptically. "Yes, but we'll make the dough from scratch and experiment with sauces and toppings we might not usually try." Martha's voice rose with enthusiasm. "It'll be a true adventure. Imagine Jamie creating a pineapple and jalapeno combination, or us trying a white pizza with ricotta." She felt boldness coursing through her as she ventured further. "And if it flops, that's okay. We'll laugh and learn. It's about being together, isn't it?" Tony nodded slowly, seemingly caught in thought. "All right, I'm willing to give it a shot," he conceded, though doubt still lingered in his eyes. Martha felt a reassuring warmth spread through her. She realized this was a pivotal moment, not just in executing a plan for family dinners, but in shaping her identity as someone who could lead through vulnerability. She was allowing herself to be seen, to be open to mistakes and missteps, all while inviting those she loved to partake in the process. The kitchen became a metaphorical bridge, spanning the gap between fear and confidence. Yet, as the week unfolded, complications began to arise. Jamie's school activities ramped up, and Tony's workload surged, squeezing time and patience. Would they all be willing to prioritize this endeavor when life demanded so much? One evening, amid their bustling schedules, they encountered their first disagreement over a flavor clash that sent tempers flaring. Martha faced the moment head-on, grounding herself in her newfound capabilities. But in tackling this conflict, she confronted an unsettling truth. Navigating family dynamics required more than just culinary skills. It demanded emotional resilience, patience, and a deeper understanding of each other's pressures and desires. As she stood there, the night air thick with tension, she felt the precariousness of the situation. How would they find their way back to shared joy amidst these challenges? And would this new adventure fortify their bonds or test them more than either Tony or she was ready to handle? The realization settled heavily upon her. A transformational journey was just beginning, but it would not be without its trials. The urgency of the situation pressed down on Martha as she prepared for the storm. Would the weight of expectations prove too much, or could they collaborate to weather the turbulence ahead? The path forward loomed uncertain, but one thing was clear: the adventure was only just beginning. Martha woke the next morning to a grinding tension drumming in her chest. The lingering arguments from the night before presented an impossible challenge. How to move forward when feelings were raw and misunderstandings hung thick in the air? She brewed coffee, its familiar aroma attempting to soothe her racing thoughts. Yet, instead of comfort, it only fueled her resolve to reclaim the peace that had been disrupted. Kitchen chaos beckoned, the pots and pans a haunting reminder of her intentions. She felt the weight of her aspirations pressing like a heavy blanket. The calendar was visible on the fridge, a personal commitment to her family, reminding her of the stakes involved. Martha's vision for a close-knit family was at risk of unraveling in the backlash of frustration. As she equipped herself for another day, plans began to materialize in her mind, strategies rooted in empathy. She realized it was essential to address the emotional atmosphere. She needed to conquer the initial hurdle rather than succumb to it. Inviting Tony and Jamie into the kitchen after school, she decided to shift the focus. "How about we talk about what everyone truly wants? I want this to be a team effort," she suggested. The words were deliberate, a bridge aimed at closing emotional gaps before they widened. Tony looked at her skeptically, but nodded, sensing the effort she put forth. "What do you mean by team effort?" he asked, a hint of curiosity glimmering in his eyes. Martha breathed deeply, engaging him rather than fearing confrontation. "I want to hear everyone's ideas, even if they clash with mine. Let's all contribute. Maybe this will help us find something we're excited about instead of feeling pressured over the pizza night." Jamie, sitting at the table with his homework spread out before him, perked up, intrigued. "So we're not just doing what you thought? What if we tried recipes from different countries?" he chimed, eager to explore culinary diversity. Martha observed her son's enthusiasm surging, recognizing an opening to refocus the evening. "Absolutely. We can explore different cultures through food," she replied, her voice gaining momentum. "Each week can highlight a different cuisine. Let's pick one country right now." As they exchanged ideas, energy shifted in the kitchen. Suggestions flew across the table like the dough they dreamed of tossing. Taco night became a frontrunner, and someone suggested adding a twist with fusion options. The atmosphere, once dense with apprehension, began to lighten, laughter breaking through. Yet, as the excitement bubbled forth, Martha clashed internally with another truth. How would she balance the enthusiasm with the control she felt responsible to maintain? The realization that this venture was about sharing control rather than shedding it weighed heavily on her. She fought off the familiar urge to impose her vision. Rather, she began to cultivate a different kind of leadership. Establishing a consensus became a delicate dance, as opinions varied wildly. Jamie wanted vibrant colors in the food, while Tony was adamant about the simplicity of flavors. Martha felt the tension rise again, but she pressed on. By acknowledging their differences, she asked them to articulate why they preferred certain elements, framing their passions rather than defending against them. The invigorating dynamic that emerged stunned her. The kitchen began to transform into a coalition rather than a battleground. They understood that disagreements could be an ingredient, not a poison. A familial meal didn't solely rely on perfect cuisine. It flourished in the varied tastes and interests shared with honesty. As the week progressed, the preparations clarified one crucial lesson. Communication in the kitchen required vigilance. Conversations needed nurturing just as much as recipes required fostering. She was learning the gravity of emotional wisdom. Would the delicate balance she started to forge continue to hold through further complexities? Just as she felt a rhythm forming within their family cooking dynamic, another twist surfaced in her journey. An invitation to join a local cooking class arrived, promising professional guidance and more opportunities for bonding. The prospect was alluring, but it surrounded her with questions. Would this new venture distract from their family goals, or could it provide a wealth of knowledge that would solidify their culinary endeavor? Standing at this new crossroads, Martha realized this was not merely about the meals they prepared, but the relationships they were cooking up. The kitchen promised transformation, but at what cost? Would the path forward bring more clarity or more chaos to her burgeoning family tradition? The answers loomed tantalizingly ahead, beckoning her to step forward into uncharted emotional territory once again. Martha spent the next few days tangled in a web of contemplation. The invitation to the cooking class loomed in her mind like a siren, its call reverberating within her aspirations. Would attending the class cultivate the skills she needed to elevate their family dinners, or would it pull her focus from the familial bonds she was striving to strengthen? Each time the calendar's date crept closer, she felt her stomach twist. Her success in the kitchen had reassured her, but the pressure of balancing her personal growth with family dynamics was mounting. The kitchen, once a haven, now felt like a double-edged sword. Each meal was a chance for connection, yet the burden weighed her down. Martha decided that she needed clarity. If this cooking class offered the knowledge to elevate their culinary adventures, could it also fortify the family unit she held so dear? The evening of the first class arrived, and as Martha drove through the familiar streets towards the culinary school, she wrestled with self-doubt. What if she didn't measure up to the other participants? What if her family resented her for stepping away from their evenings? She parked, took a deep breath, and visualized how she would return invigorated, equipped with new recipes and techniques that could spark further family engagement. The classroom itself buzzed with excitement, prospective culinary enthusiasts milling about, some chatting animatedly about their favorite dishes. Martha was surprised to find herself smiling as she introduced herself to others. They shared an immediate bond, all eager to learn, to experiment, to grow. It was a subtle reminder that she wasn't alone in her pursuit of passion. As the instructor began demonstrating techniques, Martha felt a sense of childlike wonder awaken within her. Chopping, sautéing, and blending ingredients with precision etched into her mind more profoundly than the lectures she'd endured in school. She noted how effortlessly the instructor commanded the room, a natural leader, balancing authority with encouragement. Could she emulate that style in her family kitchen? By the end of the class, Martha's hands were busy creating a savory dish alongside her classmates. The intoxicating smells permeated the air, and her confidence swelled. Here she discovered a surprising talent for flavor combinations, and unexpected creativity ignited within her. This was more than just cooking. It was a realization of her capability to foster connections through culinary art. Driving home, her heart raced, fueled by the evening's inspiration. There was a reservoir of knowledge now pooled within her. She imagined sharing everything she had learned with her family, painting vibrant scenes of culinary art on their plates. But as she neared home, a flicker of uncertainty crept in. Would her family embrace this newfound enthusiasm, or would they view it as an imposition? Once home, Martha found the boys at the kitchen table, their chatter filling the space with warmth. She set down her bags and hesitated, the thrill of the night colliding with the creeping anxiety of how it would be received. "I just got back from a cooking class," she announced, eager to share but braced for their reception. Tony quirked an eyebrow, skepticism lurking in his gaze. "So you're going to be our new chef or something?" Despite his nonchalant delivery, she sensed curiosity beneath his sarcasm. Jamie, however, leaned forward, excitement igniting in his eyes. "What did you learn? Show us." Their mixed reactions caught Martha off guard. It was a reflection of the unpredictable dance she was now entrenched in. Balancing progress with family expectations felt like attempting to juggle liquids. She needed control, yet she also felt the rush of fluidity and improv at the forefront. How would she navigate this thin line if the invitation to grow further clashed with her desire to converge? Determined to explore that tension, she set up a mini workshop right in her kitchen, allowing herself to be both teacher and learner. She needed to show them that cooking could be as alive and engaging as it felt to her now. As they began to chop vegetables and discuss flavor profiles with fresh enthusiasm, a new understanding unfurled in the air. But even amidst this blossoming, unease lurked beneath the surface. Martha knew she had to confront her own impulses to lead and control. Otherwise, the bond they were crafting could crack under pressure. Just as she felt the emotional terrain shifting once more, the doorbell rang, delivering an unexpected visitor with questions that could derail everything she had just begun to build. Would Martha have the courage to face what awaited her at the door, or would it unravel the delicate equilibrium she had fought so hard to establish? Martha took a deep breath as she approached the door, a mix of excitement and apprehension coursing through her. She had meticulously crafted a sense of unity in her family's kitchen, and now an unexpected visitor threatened to disrupt that fragile environment. She opened the door to find her neighbor Julie, standing there holding a baked dish wrapped in foil. "Hey, Martha, thought I'd drop by and share this new casserole recipe I tried. We should have a dinner together soon." The offer was tempting, yet deep down, Martha felt a ripple of apprehension, a flash of worry that this gesture could pull her family back into the old routine she was trying to escape. Memories of their traditional dinners loomed large in her mind, as did the comfort that came with predictability. But she wasn't ready to retreat. She had discovered something powerful within herself, something that could redefine her family's culinary narrative. "Thank you, Julie. This looks delicious," Martha said, her voice steady yet warm. She invited her neighbor in, determined to initiate a conversation that might inspire growth rather than rely on past habits. "Actually, could you join us for dinner this week? We've decided to switch things up and explore a new theme for our meals." Julie's brow furrowed in confusion. "Switch things up? Like what? You mean you're not doing your usual family meals anymore?" The question, though innocent, cut deep. Martha felt a rush of self-doubt surge within her. "Not exactly. I want our dinners to become more collaborative," she explained, instantly aware of the delicate line she was walking. "I was thinking we could try out different cuisines every week instead of falling back into, our old routines. Maybe even have everyone contribute their ideas." The moment hung in the air, fostering an unusual silence. Julie, ever the pragmatic neighbor, tilted her head. "Well, that sounds nice, but how do you think the family will actually take to it? Older habits die hard, don't they?" The question rattled Martha, forcing her to confront the very foundations of her newfound mission. Still, she felt her resolve hardening. "That's exactly what I'm trying to change, Julie. We're challenging each other's comfort zones. It's about more than just food. It's about connection and growth within our family." Just then, a voice called from the kitchen, Tony's curiosity punctuating the moment. "Mom, who's at the door?" He sauntered over, his interest piqued, eyes darting between Martha and Julie. "Just a neighbor, sweetheart," Martha replied. "We were just discussing how to keep our family dinners interesting." "Interesting like pizza making?" Tony chimed in, a playful grin on his face. It sent a wave of lightness through the air, and suddenly conversations flowed more easily. Martha seized the opportunity and steered the talk toward all that was possible in their culinary adventure. "What if we invited Julie to join us one night? We could incorporate some of her recipes into our new meal themes," Martha suggested, her excitement spilling into her words. "Sure, I'm down," Julie responded, her tone shifting. She could feel the enthusiasm rising around them, her initial skepticism slowly dissolving. "I'll bring a tip or two from my kitchen." The conversation unfolded effortlessly, pivoting towards possibilities, the kinds of flavors they could explore together, the stories behind the dishes, the laughter that would bind them through the memories they were about to create. That night, as Martha set the table, the anticipation blossoming within her felt palpable. She experienced a newfound excitement, a solid ground gained from her willingness to challenge old traditions. Even if only one dinner turned into a culinary adventure with friends and family, she sensed it would pave the way for a more significant shift, a stepping stone toward innovation and understanding in her family dynamic. As everyone gathered around the table that evening, her heart swelled. Each dish was birthed not just from her newfound confidence, but from the collective enthusiasm her family now shared. In that moment, she realized the truth. Embracing change was about creating room for vulnerability and collaboration, not merely for control. With laughter swirling around them, Martha felt not just a sense of accomplishment, but a profound connection that transcended the plates before her. Her family wasn't just partaking in a meal. They were collectively crafting new memories, exploring ingredients, and sharing experiences that would last a lifetime. In that kitchen, she understood she had conquered more than just culinary fears. She was redefining her place in her family's story. They were all on the path to growth together, stepping into the rhythm of a joyous experience woven with flavors and laughter. And with that realization came a steady wave of affirming clarity. She had proven that the adventure of cooking could flourish not only in her heart, but also in her home. Now, armed with the acknowledgement of her capabilities and the support of her family, she felt an unshakable confidence solidify within her. Martha was no longer just a custodian of recipes. She was a catalyst for change, weaving vibrancy into the fabric of their family life. As she reflected on the transformation that had taken place, she realized that the moments of hesitation and challenges had forged her resolve. She no longer feared setbacks. Rather, she welcomed them as opportunities for growth. The journey ahead promised more exploration, laughter, and deeper bonds, an enticing horizon that beckoned her forward. In embracing her role, Martha had not only salvaged their family dynamics, but also shaped a newfound sense of identity that flourished in the warmth of shared experiences, culinary adventures, and steadfast love. So she turned to her family, heart brimming with intention, and proposed the next step. Next week, let's try our first international night together. How about Thai cuisine? It'll be our little adventure. As they erupted into conversation, eager to craft their next family meal, Martha felt a profound inner peace. The clarity, connection, and passion she had longed for were now blossoming amid the aromas wafting from their kitchen, a true testament to her transformation, a life full of new flavors, discoveries, and familial close-knit bonds. This is the moment of truth. Her journey of transformation had taken root, and with every shared meal, she discovered that growth never truly ends. It simply evolves into the next adventure.
If you resonated with Martha's journey, this is your chance to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support truly matters. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative resolution. We want to hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how perseverance and warmth can reshape lives. Take your first step towards positive change today.